I'd been blind about what was going on in the world. I didn't, only because I had had a friend who became a notorious figure in that the Army McCarthy hearings. I had been dating David Shine for 3 years.
You didn't know, though?
And no, I didn't know anything about anything that he, I didn't know about communism. I didn't know and what McCarthy and Roy Cohn were doing. I did meet Roy Cohn and spent a number of evenings with he and David Shine. Roy would bring a pretty girl with him, and sometimes he'd come alone. And but they never talked politics. They never talked about communism. One night there was before we went to dinner at the Ambassador Hotel, we were in Roy Cohn's suite where he stayed, and he was talking to somebody. He said, "You want to say hello to Joe?" And I said, "Who's Joe?" Well, and I got on the phone. It was Joe McCarthy, who was saying, "Well, hello there, Piper. You know, how are you? You having a good time with my friends?" And I just had no patience with small talk, and so I gave the phone to Roy Cohn very quickly. I didn't know anything about what they were doing. I didn't know about the Blacklist. God help me, I didn't. I didn't know how many lives were being ruined and how many suicides there were and how unfair and the terrible price so many people were paying for this man's mind. When my friend David got into trouble, someone called and said, "Read the paper." So I read a paper, and I found out that Roy Cohn had wanted David to be serving on this committee. And he was being drafted, and Roy Cohn tried to stop his going into the Army so he could stay on this committee and work with McCarthy. And there was, at one point, Roy Cohn was accused of blackmailing the Army, and it was a terrible, awful situation, and I went out and got a newspaper. And then I got another newspaper, and at that time in LA there were maybe 5 newspapers. And I began to see that my world was a lot bigger than I had any idea, and that it took more than reading one newspaper to try to understand what was going on, what the truth was. And that changed. That was an enormous change for me. And what I found out was disturbing enough to really change my loyalty to David, because he would never really discuss any of it with me. He tried to a couple of times, and then he would clam up. So ultimately, I decided not to marry him. We were supposed to elope to, he was in the service by then in Alaska.
And you knew?
No, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it.